Everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host here at the Dark Stuff channel on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out the latest video. So this video is my current monthly installment of my concert diary, where I run through all of the bands that I've seen this week. I got 3 groups to talk to. You just saw a little bit of Soccer Mommy, and so we'll be getting to them first right after this. I have 3 different shows to report on. Let's start off with the Soccer Mommy show. So I did see Soccer Mommy last night. Soccer Mommy being the indie rock group. Really, it's an artist, not so much a group. Soccer Mommy is this woman, Sophia Allison, who is from the Nashville area. She's released 3 albums using the name Soccer Mommy. They're all really, really good. Very early to mid 90s inspired indie rock. So she's definitely heard some Belly Records and Liz Phair and stuff like that. Show was a band from Tallahassee, Florida called Pool Kids. Never heard of this group, didn't know anything about them, and I didn't know if the name was about, okay, so they're from Florida, so they spend a lot of time at the pool, so they're the Pool Kids, or is it about dropping the kids off at the pool? That expression. Maybe it has a double meaning, not sure. The Pool Kids comes out on stage with some blaring techno music, and they're all rocking out and whatever, and they're like very excited to be on stage. And they were fun and enthusiastic for sure. They were rocking out, like, not that they were at the waiting room in Omaha, Nebraska, but that they were at like Madison Square Garden or something. The lead singer, she is super enthusiastic, doing all sorts of high leg kicks, you know, and picking up the guitar and doing some like double Eddie Van Halen kind of double tapping and stuff. Definite like future rock star vibes. Musically though, whereas Soccer Mommy is more influenced by the 90s, I would say that Pool Kids was definitely more influenced by the early 2000s, that sort of emo rock period, the kind of music that you would listen to at that traveling emo night show that goes around, or you know, groups like Thursday or Fall Out Boy or whatever. And I'm not saying that's what they sound like necessarily, but it just had a very, very early 2000s Warped Tour sort of vibe. Soccer Mommy album is called Sometimes Forever, and that is where most of the stuff came from during the show. Played a lot of cuts off that record. Also did the classics like Circle the Drain and Cool and stuff like that. Drew the biggest response. Actually, the song Your Dog, or maybe it's called Dog or Your Dog, I can't remember. It's off the first album. It was one of the encores that drew the hugest response for sure. I dug the show. I definitely felt like, you know, I'm not a musician, so I don't know anything about like keys and, you know, a lot of how to talk technically about music. But it did seem to me that most of the Soccer Mommy songs seemed to be in a certain key, because it did start to feel a little bit samey after a while. But then she would mix in one of the better known songs, like a hit or whatever. So I've always looked at it as like Soccer Mommy with the 3 albums. Half the songs on the albums are just killer, just amazing, so enjoyable. And then the other half are kind of like meh versions of those other songs. So that's kind of how the set was. It was maybe about 70% really good, and then about 30% of like, meh. Blast from the past the other night when I was able to see a solo set from Josh Caterer, who was the singer and songwriter from the band The Smoking Popes. I don't know if you remember The Smoking Popes or not. I mean, two of their albums are hugely significant in my life. They're a band from the Chicagoland area from the early 90s, early to mid 90s, who had a really, really unique kind of pop punk type of sound that because of the way they sang, they made them really, really stand out. Also, lyrically, they had this really kind of overt romanticism and just sometimes some people would say overly sappy lyrics, but I thought they were very charming most of the time. You must also be in love. And I know she's got angels waiting. Meet us here tomorrow night in the very same midnight moon. Their albums Get Fired and Born to Quit I played over and over and over and over back in like 95, 96 when those things came out. With a group like the Smoking Popes, though, I felt like they were either going to be the biggest band in the world or they were just going to be completely overlooked and ignored. There wasn't going to be much middle ground with them because of the uniqueness of the singing and just the different. They are a unique band. Fit into a neat little pop punk box, even though that's kind of the realm that they were in at the time. So after getting a lot of buzz with that Born to Quit album, they signed to a major label who reissued Born to Quit. Then they did their next album, Destination Failure, which is kind of where I got off the train of the Smoking Popes. I remember hearing the record when it came out and thinking, yeah, it was okay. But I then, my journey with the band sort of ended at that time. They ended up breaking up a couple years later, and ultimately they have reformed. The Smoking Popes are active. So I found out about the show maybe 2 or 3 days in advance. It was at the Zipline Brewery in Omaha. Now, a little while ago, I saw Tommy Stinson at a Zipline Brewery in Lincoln, Nebraska, about 45 minutes away. They do have an Omaha location. I'd never been there either, but I went down for that. Same guy running it that ran the Tommy show. He and I chatted and stuff. And I had heard through the grapevine, as it were, that the show was supposed to be a house show in someone's house, and then that person kind of flaked, and at the last minute they moved it to Zipline. That's cool, because if it had been in someone's house, I mean, I know that's a thing now, but I still am a little bit weirded out by it. But I mean, I'd get over it for the right artist for sure.
Sometimes I don't know why I do things, but baby,
Zipline guy told me that this was Josh's first time doing a show like this. He said during the concert he'd done acoustic shows before, but they were usually on a stage and he was mic'd up. This was just him in a room with us. It was like 25 people. Actually, there was exactly 25 people, like 3 rows of chairs, and then a couple people stood in the back. I stood in the back with my 2 friends and watched him do a completely unmiked acoustic set. Fortunately for me, he said he was going to do the music chronologically, so it helped that I knew the early stuff because that was the stuff that they played first. When he got into the newer records, I really didn't know what that stuff was, but I was in the minority there because of the 24 people that were there for this intimate show. Almost all of them did know that stuff, and so when he played a song or two from like their 2008 album or their 2015 album or whatever, the crowd did like it, or those particular folks were absolutely aware of it. So then at the end of the show, he did a 90-minute set, which was a pretty long for a solo acoustic set. Actually, he pointed to me in the back because I was wearing an Elvis Costello shirt, and made a comment about that he'd been seeing it all night, and he's like, I'm gonna close with this song from Elvis Costello. And he goes, I know it was written by Nick Lowe. And he played What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding. It was great. It was really, really cool.
I ask myself, is all mine? Is there only pain and misery? But each time I feel like this inside, one thing I wanna know, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Yeah, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
A couple days later, I saw Australian singer-songwriter Julia Jacklin playing at the Slowdown, and this was a full band set. It was amazing. Jacklin got a lot of buzz in 2022 with her album Pre-Pleasure, and for some reason that slid by me. Okay, I've listened to it now about 5 times since I saw the show, and if I had known about it in 2022, it would have 100% certainly been in my top 10 of the year, maybe even top 5. So one of the unfortunate things with my job doing the radio show is that I do get overwhelmed with new music, and I do my best to get through it and to try to discern what is the best stuff to play, what isn't. And every now and again, something slips by me. And Julia Jacklin was clearly something that slipped by me.
When you go driving, would you stick to the railway? I'm making plans for my future, and I plan on
So Julia's music is falls under the general realm of indie rock, indie pop, and what she really does is plays a kind of a slow, mellower kind of music, and a lot of her best songs, they start really slow and quietly, and they just build little by little by little till they have this massive crescendo where the whole band is kicking in and it's just really rocking, and then goes back down to the mellow. It's just great how they do it. The dynamics with her are really cool. Then there are some more straightforward pop songs, like say I Was Neon, which was the single off the album, which I cannot stop listening to. That is such a good song. They played that at the gig. But most of the time, it's, I would say if you're familiar with Sharon Van Etten, okay, although Sharon Van Etten has a lot of stuff that's very slow and building and kind of downer stuff, but then, it builds into this crescendo. The difference is with Sharon Van Etten, sometimes it's so dark and so intense that, like, it's hard to listen to and it gets a little disturbing sometimes. I don't feel that way with Julia Jacklin. I'm able to like get into it. Although her brand new single, Shivers, ventures into some dark territory lyrically that did kind of make me a little bit uncomfortable. Not a song I was going to be singing along to, but she played that one at the show as well. Overall, I'm not familiar enough with her 3 albums to say what songs she did and didn't play beyond 1 or 2 at the gig. But I did think her band was excellent. Her lead guitar player. Go to this Julia Jacklin show until really the day before, and I messaged a buddy of mine who works at the record label and was like, "Is it too late to try and get tickets?" Thankfully, it was not, because now I'm a major fan. I'm so annoyed with myself that I overlooked this artist prior, because the crowd was super into it. Like, if you look in my clips really closely and some of the live clips, if you look in the audience, you'll see a bunch of kids. It was a very young crowd, and they know every single word. Every single word. They were so just focused on Julia Jacklin. She was fantastic. I cannot recommend her enough. That newer album, Pre-Pleasure, and is fantastic. And I'm now diving into her older records, Crushing from 2019, and another one called Don't Let the Kids Win from 2016. So I'm getting into all of that, folks.
The same ways that my friends do, always looking in from the outside. Don't want her to change, pick apart or rearrange her. Oh, I just wish.
All right, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.